When you first open up Vectornator, this is the view that you're going to see. It's called the gallery view. You probably have several examples already installed of different kinds of drawings from Vectornator. You can keep them or delete them. One of the things you'll find out that is if you are a senior, your iPad is probably running a little slower and is kind of full. So these images do take up some space since they're quite intricate. I might suggest if you're a senior or a junior with a slow iPad to take these off. If you hold down on the actual image, you'll get the option to delete in the red. All right, we are going to start at the top right, and we're going to click the plus sign to actually start a brand new document. I could come down to the word paper here and scroll through all the different possible paper sizes I could select, okay? But we're going to start with a custom size. So I'm going to click on the big plus custom size. Your units of measurement might say points or picas, but I'm going to encourage, just like we do on the desktop at school and at home, we're going to work with inches only. It's what we tend to understand the most clearly. I'm going to click on the width, and I'd like to change the width of this. So if you have an Apple Pencil, you could probably write right in there. If you don't, you can use your icon here to kind of get to a typing capability. So I'm going to do 8.5 by 11. Okay, so I'm going to make this kind of vertical. I'm going to click done, and then I'm going to click create right at the top. So here we have our brand new document. It's rather large right now. I'm going to put both fingers on and reduce just a little bit, so we'll be able to see other document panels show up here in a moment. Let's take a tour. Some of the things that are very similar to Illustrator. At the top, this tool that is currently selected on the left is our selection tool. It selects the whole shape. Below is our direct selection tool. It's the one that chooses anchor points that you can change individually, just like we have in Illustrator. Then below that, about 4 from the bottom, we have the rectangle tool. All right. If you're like, well, that's great, but I want to draw some more shapes. Well, the rectangle tool can eventually become the circle tool by our slider here. If I bring the slider down from the circle, it's going to be a rectangle with some rounded sides. Well, I want more shapes. I agree. The 3 little dots there at the top signifies that it's a menu with more things. So look, we have more options, and more options. All right. Now, to the right, there is an icon right next to the little plus sign that has 3 little papers. Okay, click on that, and that reflects our layers panel, just like we have in Illustrator. All right, so we're going to be working in layers. We're going to create a background layer here in just a moment. I'm going to go all the way over to the left to the little dripping paintbrush. The dripping paintbrush, it is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to give us some paintbrush colors. All right. Here we have what we've seen before in Illustrator is a fill here at the top. And we have the option for a stroke outline if we want a stroke outline. Now, say we're drawing something and we don't wish it to have a stroke. There is a little eyeball right next to that, all right? Eyeballs hide, okay, or they show something, right? So I'm going to turn off the stroke. So all that we're going to be working with right now is a fill. So we're going to come back over to the rectangled shape. And we're going to draw a pure rectangle, which means this little slider has to be all the way at the bottom so we get a really sharp rectangle. So I'm going to click in the top left-hand corner and drag all the way down. And I have created a background for my design. All right. Now, it just happened to already be set on some of a dark gray or black. I can change that. I can click the fill option, and up from the bottom pops this color scale, just like we're kind of used to seeing in Illustrator with the color picker. I could pick a different color. I can choose and slide along here to blues or to greens or to grays or to blue grays. So I've got all these different options I can slide between, all right? And I can click anywhere on here for a color to be my background. When I'm done, there's a gray little bar right at the top of this that if I swipe down, it moves that color picker out of my way. So again, I click on the fill, I can choose a color, and then I can flick that little bar out of my way going down on the iPad. All right, I'm going back to the layers panel here. So this is going to be our background color. Now to make that background color, we had to draw a big shape, right? Okay, so we don't want this shape to move around when I start moving things with my finger on this area, okay? That would become very annoying. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lock this layer. See the little padlock there? I click it and it closes. I'm also gonna rename this my background layer so I know which layer is what. So I'm gonna click on this, double click on it, and I'm gonna highlight here and get rid of what I have. I'm working with an Apple pencil, so I'm gonna write in background. If you're not working with, there it goes, it filled it in for me. Background, then you can type it in. All right, so now this is my background layer. It's locked, I can't move it around. See how it's not gonna go anywhere. And now I need to add a new layer so I can draw more shapes on top of this. So I go to the little plus sign right next to the layers panel, in the layers panel, forgive me. Right here is the plus sign, and that adds a new layer, okay? The new layers are always gonna be on top of the previous ones. They stack, all right? So now I'm gonna come back over here to my paint bucket, and I wanna choose a new color for some shapes that we're gonna put in. Let's see, let's play something in the orange family. Okay, so say I have this obnoxiously bright orange, all right? My color is gonna show up for whatever shape I draw over here, whether it is a square or a pentagon or a star. Let's look at some stars here, okay? Let's get this, whoops, my apologies. Let me get this slide in here. Let's do a star with 8 points. So I'm going to drag. So there's my star with 8 points, right? Now if I remove that all the way down, that takes us down to a 3-sided triangle, all right? Now notice in these little bounding boxes, there's an orange dot that was at the top. Oop, my apologies, I added another one before I was timed. So we have this orange dot at the top. That means we can grab that little orange dot and pivot this however we wish to. So we have the option of turning this little guy and adjusting him at whatever angle we wish him to be at. Same thing with this. So every individual shape has its own little turning or rotating feature. All right, now that we have some of these drawn, we can also add an outline stroke. So I'm going to swipe that down and I'm going to activate the stroke button. All right, let's choose something for an outline color. Let's see, we were in the blue-green family before. Let's go with something really dark down here. So I'm going to go with a really dark green color. So here we go with this, and then I'm going to swipe that away, and now I have to choose right underneath of it, how wide or how narrow do I want the stroke outline to be? Okay, so I can choose that. I can click off of that. So that's one kind of outline. I could do another one over here, select this guy, and I can choose a totally different color. Maybe I want this to be a white one, right? Swipe it down, and maybe I want this to be a finer line, okay? So you have some options of how to work with the outline strokes, all right? Now, I'm gonna move these shapes closer to each other here, right? I'm gonna maybe change the inside fill of with this one for an example. Let's change it to something blue for fun. All right, swipe down. Now, one of the options that we have is the opacity. Remember, opacity is 100% solid. But as soon as we start to remove something's solidness, it's going to become transparent. Look at that. It's now a see-through shape of that blue. And look what it does to the other orange color. Isn't that crazy? Okay. So we can play with the idea of see-through or transparency here just like we can in Illustrator. Okay. We also have the capability of, I was mentioning how we can move around anchor points. So that's our selection tool. Underneath that is our direct selection tool. So that means I can click and activate any anchor point. See how he turned dark black or solid? I can now move that anchor point wherever I want and create a new shape. Ta-da! Okay, I go back to my selection tool and I can move that shape around. All right. I'm going to turn the outline stroke off of that particular shape because I want to show you something else that we're going to be using for our first projects. We're going to have the option to work with a blur. So I'm going to select this object and I'm going to, come on. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong thing. My apologies. Come back. There we go. That's what I wanted to hit. We're going to change the opportunity to blur this object. Look how fuzzy it gets. I can fuzz it just a little bit or a lot. A poof ball. So you're going to have the opportunity to blur a little bit of your object. Check that out. All right. The other thing we want to play with is the opportunity for creating a shadow or a drop shadow. Okay, so I'm click this object here. I'm going to scroll up and at the very bottom we have the option for a shadow. I'm going to choose a dark black color for the shadow. Check that out. Okay, now I could change things up a little bit. Maybe I don't want it to be a solid black one. Maybe I just want it to be a darker gray. It could be a color if you want it to. Okay, it could almost glow, you know. So it will produce and work with some kind of a shadow, and then you choose the color. But shadow is always at the very bottom here of our view. All right. When we're working with some shapes, let me move this over just a little bit there. We might want to rearrange shapes. Maybe I want this blue shape to move behind the orange one. All right. Right next to the paintbrush is a diamond. It kind of looks like a baseball diamond. I'm going to click on that. And this is the area in which you can arrange shapes. So I'm going to come down here to the sort of the lower area to where it says, whoops, I went down too far. No, I didn't. Yeah, I want to go to the order zone right here in the middle. And I can change the order in which these objects appear. Maybe I want the selected shape to come to the front. Maybe I want the selected shape to go to the back. Okay, so you can rearrange your objects depending on their order. So again, order is under the Arrange tab. So things that we've looked at so far. We've looked at layers, okay? We can turn layers off or on. Sorry, let me do that. We can turn them off or on. We can even lock a layer so we don't accidentally move something that we don't mean to, okay? We used and created a large shape for our background, and then we locked it. We have color options for fill and for stroke inside of the paintbrush. We can arrange whether the order is in front or behind. And we have our tools and selection items over here for adjusting or making shapes change. So those are some of the basic things that we've worked with so far in Illustrator that I wanted to show you where they are in Vectornator. Last thing. You hit the X and you enter back into the gallery, all right? To title your work, if you double tap on the item, it will give you the option to retitle it, whatever you wish, and you can title your new title, hit enter, and it'll stay, okay? So that kind of helps you with some of the basic workarounds and how we've seen some similar items from Illustrator show up here again in Vectornator.